Okay, well, let's get started. Rao, do you want to get the do the tech update?
Yes, I will. Hold on one second. Let me share the link and the screen here. All right, welcome everyone to Community Update 199. And basically on the mainnet, in terms of the status of the networks, on the mainnet, we have an upgrade in process. The observer nodes on the mainnet are running the 0.12.4 version, and the testnet is also running 0.12.4. And we will shortly
Someone
be
playing
updating.
something?
Game board.
Is someone playing something?
These are collect.
Okay. And the mainnet validators will also be updated to 0.12.4. So right now we have them going on the observers, and once, we have been running it for a day or more, a couple of days on the testnet and observers. So we should be upgrading the validators soon to that. What this version basically has is it has an update to the OpenAPI JSON. And also there is the find by block hash function. The find by block hash function that Stas worked on is mostly being used by the core dev right now, but and it is not probably directly applicable to end users or developers at this time, but it would be something in future that may be used by everyone. So that's what the 0.12.4 version is. But in terms of the main work on the LLVM branch of the code, the team is done. I said last week that the team is working through a few cases by hand to make sure that the finalization fringe-based conflict set and conflict resolution and merging, all of that, that they will be working fine. So that work is complete now. Tomislav and Nadzipra have gone through a bunch of cases, and Greg has reviewed that. In fact, Greg's comment was that the cases were close enough to do an informal proof using the logic of those cases, because it covers both the very small opposite spectrums of the cases and in between. So Tomislav will probably be working on that, but the main thing from the standpoint of the release is that the team is moving forward with making the necessary code changes based on this agreement, based on this design and validation of the design by hand with a few cases and things like that. So that's where we are with that. So there's forward progress on that. Dennis is mostly done with that history data, performance improvement and storage reduction that he's working on, but he found some more optimal optimizations that he could do. So he put those in, and he's working on the rest of the pieces to integrate his code into the code base, and it'll be released as part of the hard fork too. There are a few different things that have been going on in terms of improving developer experience. One of the things we did on the roadmap, we put a milestone for improving developer experience, but then we said that it'll be delivered incrementally over the year. So there's not a particular date, but there are things being delivered in there, and then we'll figure out how to capture some of these in there. Maybe the big bullets under developer experience improvement will probably add to the roadmap as details under the current one. But in terms of this particular week, there is a reasonable amount going on there. Stas has completed the web API improvement to extract the channels from a bundle, basically convert unforgeable names in a bundle to JSON. So that one is done. And he is now working on improvements to the status method on web API and gRPC, both to add network ID and shard name to the API response. In future, we might add things like node version. I know this is something Jim Whitescover had been asking for a while, and we will need that because you may have a situation where if there are like optional updates or something like that, a part of the network may be running some version of the node and the others have not updated to it or whatever. So in those cases, especially because slashing and all that are involved, we do want to be able to detect what version of the node is being run. That's one kind of a scenario. But the other is that if there are multiple shards running different node versions, the developers in general need to be able to detect what node version is being run by what shard. So all those things will be coming in slowly. We will be working on those once we understand really what the requirements are and what is the best way to serve those requirements is. So that'll be ongoing work, partly through tech governance and partly through basically developers working with existing developers, meaning the core dev team working with existing developers to get that going. So all of that will be worked on in future. The other thing, of course, anytime I say changes to the API, one of the concerns obviously is, are there any changes to existing code that's being run on the chain? At this point in time, we're only doing additions to the API, so there should not be any impact on anything you're doing. But if there are any changes in future that that'll cause changes, we'll certainly let you know. So that's the situation over there. So through this process, basically Stas is becoming familiar with the code base from the outside in. So he's trying to make some improvements to the API, and then in the process is having to go figure out what's going on in the code. So there's a good way to learn the code base. So Tomislav is working very closely with him and Dennis on that, so that they get up to speed on the code base. Another thing, this is part, I guess this is also really developer experience improvement, is that in the dev branch of the code right now, there is InfluxDB and Telegraph being used as a dashboard to get the data from data and metrics, either from Grafana or from the code directly into InfluxDB and be able to see that. And that is, Gurinder is working with the team he worked with the team on setting that up. And now the team will be adding more event markers to the code so that the metrics and all that can be, the metrics can be sort of auto-generated from there. Basically, you will have the events or time of the events being reported in there, and then the metrics can be auto-generated into the dashboard. So that's one kind of thing that's going to be done. The other is error reporting, which is not related to the dashboard, but basically looking at error reports as in terms of how can we improve the both the quality and the detail of the errors and the category of errors, so that when something happens, the core dev team is able to readily pinpoint the area of the code that they should be looking at. So that's another thing that we'll be looking at. of course, both of these primarily we're doing now to improve or make it easy for core devs to understand what's going on so that they can be more responsive. But once we expose that to the larger community, it should be broadly useful to everyone to say, okay, which part or where are things taking longer? How do I need to improve my code to be able to reduce that and things like that? So that's the idea with this, is that initially the dev team is going to eat their own dog food, and then eventually we'll release it out in the wild so that others can also give any feedback as to what more is needed for that to be a useful set of tools. Another thing in there is we will be documenting how somebody can set up their own test network. There is increasing enterprise engagement. So this is one of the things that we need so that enterprise teams can go set up their own test network with a faucet and all that. It would be, like any documentation, we're very weak on documentation right now. We don't have a whole lot. We have one other developer group that's trying to come up to speed on the network, and they're also asking for, where do I get started? So we will be putting some emphasis on documentation, but again, since the team is still very lean, this is going to be coming in trickles. When we see a particular need for something, we will scramble and create that, and then we'll do more of that as we move forward. That's what it'll be now, but we will have a plan for improved documentations with somebody dedicated to that once we have the resources to do so. The tech governance meeting was held this week. One of the main things we were talking about is the minimum flow, increasing the minimum flow. So we're going to make it a shard level parameter for now, and then work with wallet developers to make sure that they're able to make the necessary changes in their code and make sure, test that all the wallets are working. And then once it's a parameter, we should be able to find the right level for it to meet the validator costs and things like that. So that should be easy to change things on an ongoing basis. I said last week that we're in the process of updating the roadmap that has been updated on RChain.coop. There will still be, maybe I should briefly review that. Give me 1 sec. There may be some changes to that yet, because there are some features where we are spending a reasonable amount of time, but we didn't necessarily highlight them as milestones in the roadmap. So I think it may be good for the community to know where the time is being spent. We'll have the milestones updated accordingly. The other thing, of course, as we engage with enterprise customers, we may need a parallel roadmap for the enterprise version of our node, and that might have some impact on the current sequencing of things. I mean, at this point, we don't see any major impact yet because that activity is just starting up and we're still in the process of gathering requirements. But future milestones, we need to coordinate between the enterprise version and the public version of the node as to how that's going to work. So the permissioned and the public version of the node. So I'll just maybe spend a minute to go over, probably at least those who are active have already looked at the roadmap, I think. So this is where we are. This is where I'm saying we probably need one more milestone that will be ready to be delivered. That's the accelerated rev transfers. Tom Slav has done a fair amount of work on that. And that's going to be released as part of hard fork 2 also. And then all these other things, many are similar to what was there before. And then we have a couple of milestones that are ongoing. And then we'll see what to add in the detail here as we fix things. And then, so those are the changes. This, I believe, is a new one that we added because I think at some point this would be very useful. This is not Mercury. Behavioral types was part of Venus, but I put it in here anyway because I think we'll find use for that soon. And of course, we need to define what that is and how we can do that. So that those are all things that need to happen in the future. But right now, we're still focused on hard fork 2 and LLBM related tasks at this point in time. So that's the tech update. Are there any questions, comments on any of this?
Thank you, Rao. It's very
right.
it's very encouraging to see the work that Tomislav and Nutzipper have been doing to document the examples that they're using to drive their process through to completion on the finalization frames. That's very, very encouraging. So let's see, this week at the special board meeting, the RChain board ratified the Bootstrap RChain publishing cooperative board. So if you're interested in the composition of that board, please check the minutes. We can have a more full discussion of that in the Friday closed door session, but this is necessary given the nature of the funding that we're seeking. So any questions about that? Okay, I think that is basically all that the board discussed. I think it took up the majority of the time in yesterday's session. So let's see, Daryl, are you ready to give your the week in review?
Yes. Hey, Greg. Hey, everybody. Here's the week in review from November 18th to November 24th. Last Thursday in the governance committee call, we discussed the LCA and the bylaws, and we had a discussion around forking versus sharding when a shard is its own layer 1 platform. On Friday in the climate coordination RCast, we talked about the history of oil's advertising, the fight to keep coral reefs, and historic flooding in my neck of the woods in British Columbia, Canada. Oh, Casper, stand up. Greg, do you have an update from Monday?
I sent it to you earlier this morning. Sorry, I probably hit your inbox
okay.
too late. But yeah, sure. So essentially, this week we covered the last few conditions that were necessary to complete the specification of the generation of the logic for Q categories. Which is important for looking at alternative containers to sets, and in particular, containers that are related to linear logic. We then had a brief discussion of the next phase of that line of research, which is the axiomatization of Q categories in the logic generated by Q categories. And one of the central points, which is that the logic as generated does not allow for crisp statements. So you get Q-valued statements as opposed to crisp statements, where a crisp statement is either true or false. So then there was a brief discussion of how adding reflection makes it possible to have crisp statements. And that's it for the Casper stand-up.
Thank you. Yesterday in the communications working group, we discussed how best to optimize the new marketing group, getting started with some Wikipedia entries for Greg and RChain, new translation tools in Zoom to help improve our meetings between West and East team members. And Steve Henley presented his research on DHL. And this morning in the active member hangout, we discussed Jim's new fork in the road in his personal life. The more discussion on the weather anomalies here in British Columbia. HJ had some questions about the state of block merge. And Theo showed a new demo of the RChain publishing functionality of creating a folder and placing 3 different media files in it, all on chain. And I believe Theo's going to possibly show us that demo next week or something like it. And yeah, and that's it. That brings us to now.
Great. Any questions for Daryl? Okay. So there will be updates about the fundraising efforts. I will be holding a closed door session on Friday. If you are interested in how the fundraising is going, please join the Friday session. And I think that's it. We'll keep it a light one since I know everyone is interested in moving on to their Thanksgiving Day preparations, at least in the US. So the one thing I did want to mention that's only tangentially RChain related is that this Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. British Standard Time, I am being interviewed on a radio program in regards not to RChain, but to the album that my ensemble, The Crown, is releasing in December. If people are interested, please feel free to give that a listen. To find it, you just search for Crookit, 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 as opposed to Crooked Dreams, and then that will get you to a page which has two options, either to listen live or to listen to the archived version later. The relationship to RChain is that 50% of all sales of the album will go towards funding further RChain development. Yeah, I hope that some of you will tune in. The album has some incredibly talented musicians on it, from the marvelous Petra Hayden, who is Charlie Hayden's daughter, to Beth Quist, who toured with Bobby McFerrin and was in the Ka show for Cirque du Soleil, to Amy Denio, who is a part of the Tipton saxophone, I think it's quartet.
Yeah.
And many others, many stellar musicians. So please, if you are interested in good music, give a listen to the radio show and consider purchasing the album as a Christmas gift, both to someone in your life who loves music and as a Christmas gift to RChain. And with that,
this is what time is this at?
or
this is just ongoing?
No, the radio show is at 2 p.m. Pacific time, which is also 10 p.m. British Standard Time.
On Friday.
Mm-hmm.
On Friday, yeah.
Greg, where can we buy your album?
Thank you for asking. When we actually get the album across the border from the press. It was pressed up in Canada. Then I will launch a campaign on Bandcamp, but I won't until I have the items in my hands. I don't want to post it online. But you will be able to buy it via Bandcamp and through Patreon. Yeah, so that'll be those links will be available at some point.
Awesome.
Yeah, I do want to say that this is vinyl, and it's unlike just about any vinyl that you will have received. So there might be sticker shock. We're charging $125 per album, and that's just because so much when each of the pieces of art in the booklet were hand drawn by extremely talented artists, and there are 12 of these beauties in addition to the vinyl LP and the jacket. So that's what goes into the price tag, and it's a very limited edition. So there's only 250 of these things in existence. So they will sell out relatively quickly. So anyway, just thought I'd let people know.
Sounds amazing, Greg.
Oh, well, yeah, it was a labor of love. It took 3 years to produce this album with a pandemic in the middle.
I think it took everyone 3 years to do anything recently.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, please consider this as a way to support RChain if you are so inclined. And with that, everyone, please stay safe, stay warm, and see you on the other side.